Over the past decade, China has increased state control over the economy, favoring the planned economy over the free economy and free trade. It has kept China maintaining stable growth, but the growth was built on a real estate bubble coupled with overspeculation in the real estate sector. This has led to the over-leveraging of developers and the massive state-directed resources going to unproductive, extravagant trophy projects or high-speed railways that will take hundreds of years to recover the cost. High-speed railways only make sense when built in developed regions such as Shanghai to Beijing, where people value speed more than money. Across the nation, only a few made a profit last year. If China had used billions of the railway budget on healthcare and national welfare projects, it could have improved tens of thousands of people's lives. But now, it might be too late to redirect that money into these troubled sectors, fully restructure local government debt, and more importantly, boost domestic consumption. Beijing is preparing for another trade war with the US. This time, Trump is well prepared. Importantly, over the entire Biden administration, Biden kept most of Trump's tariffs. To deal with this, Beijing has already played most of its cards. A second Trump term would likely be even harder for Beijing to handle, especially under the current manufacturing-centric economic policy. Many Chinese economists hope this situation will finally push Beijing to shift its economic policy to focus more on fixing its meager healthcare and unemployment system. However, if the current trend continues in China, it will certainly enter a deflationary spiral, where weak demand leads to weak corporate profits, thus lowering wages and causing massive unemployment. This will lead to continued increases in local government debt as they try to boost the economy. These debts come from state-owned banks, and as we already know, much of the spending by local governments is on trophy projects that cannot generate enough cash flow. This creates a repeated, unsustainable debt borrowing cycle, which will inevitably collapse, merely postponing the problem rather than fixing anything. China wasn't always like this. Back in the 1990s, under then-Premier Zhu Rongji, when facing an economic slowdown, he forced inefficient state-owned companies to close down or merge, causing massive job losses, but making the remaining companies stronger. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Beijing put together a stimulus package equal to 12% of GDP, causing the government to rely on over-leveraging and unsustainable debt problems later on. But at the time, it was sufficient to pull the Chinese economy out of the deflationary trap. National capitalism faces a fundamental issue. During the early stages of industrialization, the country experiences a productivity boom, producing vast quantities of goods. However, these achievements are driven primarily by the state, rather than individuals or the private sector. Initially, this leads to an underestimation of the private sector's importance. Only later do policymakers recognize the need to stimulate domestic consumption. Without this realization, the system risks evolving into a model reliant on conflict, using force to open other nations' trade markets.